Welcome to the Doing Hard Things podcast. We've all heard that we can do hard things, but what about when it coincides with a cooperative and philanthropic spirit? That's where we find purpose-driven business at the crossroads of hard things and heart things. I'm your host, Amanda Mazzo. I'm an artist and business owner and have been my own boss for more than 15 years. I'm also a purpose mentor to collegiate juniors and seniors and am so inspired by conversations around who people are becoming versus what they're achieving. My guest today is Jamie Cox. Jamie is a brand strategist and the founder of Strange Salt, a creative collective that brings creatives together to set brands apart. She's in the business of making brands less boring. She works with small business owners, solopreneurs, and founders to understand their audiences, size up the competition, and re-energize their businesses. Jamie is also co-host of the podcast Scope Creep, a show for anyone who is interested in building a values-first brand that leaves you healthy and wealthy. We're so glad you're here. Now let's get to the heart of it. Jamie Cox, welcome to Doing Hard Things.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I am so glad
excited.
we're in the same room.
I know. It's been a minute.
When did you speak at Creative Mornings?
It was May of last year, so 2022. So it's been over a year.
A year.
Surely we've crossed paths since then.
Maybe. Oh, I forgot to tell you. This actually just popped in my head. I know we have crossed paths. You did not know we crossed paths.
No, we're just kidding.
I was coming out of Center 615 and I saw your green hair.
Oh,
and I'm like,
yeah.
oh, that's Jamie.
Yes,
Yeah.
everyone spots me.
But I wasn't going to at that point,
Yeah.
we literally had been in the same room once. So I wasn't going to roll down the window and be like, hi,
could.
Jamie.
You could. People do that all the time, even if they don't know me. And they'll be like, I love your green hair. And I'm like, oh my gosh, hey, do you want to be friends? And I'll talk to them.
I love that. Yeah.
I'm like that.
Hey, we're all connected, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you know that you're my last recording for season 1?
I didn't.
I don't know how all of these are going to pan out, but you're the last recording for season 1. So we're going out with a bang.
Yes.
I'm here for it.
Let's get off the rails then.
It's off the rails.
Let's go.
Giddy up, listener.
Yes,
Here
you
we
guys
are.
have been waiting.
That's right. Okay. So before we get going, but actually before we have got, I don't know wherever we are right now in this conversation, I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Oh no, I don't know what it is.
The second half of the new and noteworthy podcast celeb in the Doing Hard Things studio.
The elephant in the room. Yes. I'm glad that you got to talk to Liz because we were just talking about how eloquent she is. And
eloquent.
So if anybody's expecting that from me, please let go of all expectations. It's not going to be like that.
No, it's going to be great. I think that's what we love about Scope Creep, though. And I told Liz the same thing, just the authenticity, right? Just to have people, who get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, I think for us starting Scope Creep was we're already having these conversations. Surely other people are too.
Yes.
We can't be the only ones. And Liz and I are both always talking about how important it is to be yourself in your business. And that is for us being ourselves, having that authentic, showing up authentically, whether we're, at happy hour with friends or in the trenches with clients and client drama. I still try to bring that sense of humor to everything I do, because otherwise, what's the point?
Right. And it feels like a lot of really, it feels tough. It takes a lot of energy to have to can yourself up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think sometimes when I go into rooms where it's going to be a client meeting and I've now got to wear a blazer or something like that, which fine. It's fine, but I'm going to wear a blazer with jeans.
Yes, exactly.
I keep thinking of, what people have always told me, dress for the job you want. And I'm like, okay.
Jeans and a t-shirt it is then.
Yes. This is it. Take it or leave it.
Yes. Yeah. I spent so much of my corporate career trying to fit inside somebody else's box of that dress for the job you want. And this is what professional looks like. And I'm like, is it though?
Yeah.
Is it? And so since leaving my corporate job, I've really tried to just okay, what is the most authentic version of myself? And how can I show that to my clients right off the bat so they know do I want to work with this person who is sometimes chaos, but a little funny and entertaining. And through doing that, like I definitely get the clients and the work that brings me joy in that way. And like that gives me the space to be myself, and people appreciate that.
I love it. I for sure want to talk more about that. But first I have to know, because going back to Scope Creep, over 10,000 downloads at this point. Yeah. You wrapped on season 1. You had your first live event together. And, you know, of course, this new and noteworthy, like what it was like the top 10 business.
We humble brag. So we got a new and noteworthy. We were actually on Apple Podcast homepage with Julia Louise Dreyfus was on there.
Come on.
And who else was on there? There were some icons that were just, and we were just like, oh my God, what a dream.
Yeah. How do you
we
feel?
Were like right below BBC podcast. And we're like, what the hell? But no, it was just such a shock. Like if you know, you actually submit to be in new and noteworthy, but once you submit, it just goes into the ether, and
you never know.
You never know. They don't even send you a confirmation that like, hey, we got your information. So we didn't even know that we had made it on New and Noteworthy until one of our colleagues sent it to us and was like, I was just looking for a new podcast and I saw you guys on the homepage.
Oh, that's wild.
And we were like, what? And then I texted my sister, who I know listens to the show, and she was like, oh yeah, I saw that yesterday. I thought it was just because I subscribed. I was like, Liz, you got to tell me these things.
Communicate.
Yes. So yeah, truly wild. But that's kind of, it's definitely brought a lot more people to us, which is great. And it's also just that reassurance that like, oh, people are actually having these conversations and want more people to have those conversations. Because I think we're all just living in this space of like, this is what I do as a business owner, and I have to shamelessly self-promote and feel gross about it all the time. And it's like, you don't. Yeah. So it's been really great. We made it to the top 10 of the entrepreneur charts, which was cool. And then we were on, we were also in the top 10 in Thailand. Thailand, do you want us to do an event? And then we were in the top 30, I think, of the business podcast. So we beat out some of my, these are not my actual rivals, but I like to think of them as rivals. So we climbed the charts and beat them for, you know, a moment. It was like our 15 seconds of fame.
Hey, that's super fun. That's awesome. And another milestone that I heard that you probably don't consider a milestone, maybe you do, your first hater.
Oh, we actually, we have a lot of, well, we did have our first hater who was commenting on our YouTube videos, which I was like, bro, I'm just going to turn off comments.
Right.
Come at me.
Right.
But, and then we've gotten some funny reviews that are like, these people talk about themselves too much. And I was like, okay.
I mean, isn't that okay. All right.
I don't think you get the premise. So it's really funny because the hate mail we do get is so on the nose, and it's all the stuff that we talk about. Like
you're like, thanks for proving our point.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's just really funny. It's, you have to laugh. Otherwise you'll cry. But we did get our first, like unsolicited just email that was like, oh my gosh, are you talking directly to me? And it was just a super nice letter. And you
didn't know who it was from?
They actually live in Nashville, and they were like, my friend posted about this podcast. And we respond to every single thing. So I sent a note back and I was like, we love getting fan mail. Thank you so much. And you're our first one. I was like, besides the hate mail we've gotten, which we also love.
It means somebody's listening. You're driving up numbers, whether you love it or hate it.
That's right. You still downloaded.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day when we were, you know, just kind of starting to go into the editing phase and like thinking about, okay, where's this video? We're videoing.
Yes.
Where is that video going? And then of course, all the voices in your head start coming up and you're like, well, that's not a great angle. Like, what are people going to say about that? But then it goes back to what you were saying, like, if you are authentic, if you bring your, I mean, at some point, this is how I look from all angles. I can't do anything about that. So if you hate it, like you say, please leave a 5-star review. And if you hate it, please leave.
Yes.
That's so good.
Yes. Yeah, it is just like, well, we were talking about this too, like hearing your own voice.
Oh yeah.
Is like, oh, you have to get over that really quick. And it's just like, people will love it or they will hate it. So you don't have to listen if you don't like it.
Very true. Very true. Okay. So like I was telling Liz, you know, I love it. I'm a fan. And I'm super pumped to just have you here and get the opportunity to talk to both of you. And so I asked her the same question, but I'm curious why scope creep was a yes for you.
Yeah. Well, I've honestly doing anything with Liz is a yes for me. I just admire her so much.
How did y'all meet?
So we actually met at a Ladies Get Paid event in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
This was probably 2017. And we were at if I'm remembering correctly, we were at like a table together, like a round table discussion sort of thing.
Is that sort of like Ladies Wine and Design?
Kind of. It's across industry though. And it's more about like negotiating, asking for what you're worth, like any sort of money related conversations.
Cool.
And also just like advocating for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we were both part of like, I don't know if you want to call it like founding members of the chapter, but there's one in Nashville that it's a nationwide organization though. So we were put at the same round table and I think we were facilitating conversation. I don't think we'd ever met before I can't remember, but anyway, and we were having these conversations about like, how do you ask for more money? And at the time, I think we were both working full time for somebody else. And Liz and I were realizing like, oh, that's not the hard thing for us. And we just kind of gravitated toward one another. Like, I'm happy to ask for more money all day long. Pay me. But Liz and I just kind of gravitated toward each other for that and have just stayed in touch and have just kind of been like internet friends. And then in maybe 2021, she asked me for coffee and she's like, I'd love to just hear what you're doing and catch up. So we had coffee and I don't know, we've just stayed in touch ever since then,
awesome.
like talking every week. She joined Strange Salt, which is the creative collective I founded. We worked together on projects and this whole time we're having like Slack conversations about the same things we've been talking about forever. Like, look at this stupid thing I saw on the internet. Like, look what this person said on LinkedIn. This is so fake. So we just had those conversations forever. And then, I think I jokingly said, it sounds like you should have a podcast about this. I told her she should have it. And she's like, I'm not going to lie. I've thought about it.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh, so have I. So, and it was like a year in the making though. Like we, talked about it and we both are like, well, we could probably figure out how to do this, but it was that question of we could, but should we? Like, we both are busy people. Do we really need to do that? So it was about a year of figuring out what the show was actually going to be, who our audience was going to be, all of those things. And then also just figuring out the production side. Like, you guys having this amazing setup in here and you know how to do it. We were like,
Jason knows how to do it. This small little thing I get because I had in 2020, and a little before that too, I had like a personal podcast, side project. So I'm just to figure it out. But I was like, I think I'd like to do video too. And he's like, I've got it. Yeah. Like, let me pulling up bh.com, like ordering things. I'm like, well, okay.
What a dream team. Yeah. Liz and I are both like, we both have not the same skill set, but a very like similar skill set. So we were like, oh, we need help. So we hired somebody to help us like figure out the podcast itself as far as like what the messaging was going to be, who the audience was, what the kind of goal was. And then the audio side of it, which thank God for them. They're amazing. They made us sound great. We love them.
It's awesome.
Yes.
The music, like everything. It's so good. Yeah.
So it was really fun to do that. And just the whole process, like I think going into anything new, especially with a friend and somebody, is a little nerve wracking because you're like, am I going to like this person still after we work together? And yes, like I feel like Liz and I are even closer than we ever have been just because we're talking about these things that are really hard to talk about for a lot of people. And just, I don't know, finding purpose, if you will, in those conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great. And just doing something with Liz was like, yes, absolutely. 100%. I'm in.
I don't know how maybe she just, cause I know she works a lot in like content and writing and research. And I'm like, maybe she just has like a word bank in the back of her head. And so she's just like, blah, 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 blah. And it's poetry. And this is for, anyway,
yes, I feel like we're like the perfect, we're like the dynamic duo of Jamie goes off the rails and Liz brings it back in.
She's like, there's a point there.
Yes.
Here we go.
And I feel like we complement each other.
That's cool.
So well in that, which is something I didn't expect. And when you like sit down with somebody who is so eloquent, it really highlights how non-eloquent you are.
It's a yin and yang. You need both. Exactly. You need both. Oh my gosh. So I told you we read your bio at the very beginning.
Oh, yes.
And so we talked about Strange Salts but I intentionally left out the road it took to get there.
Oh yeah.
And I know a little bit because I heard you speak at Creative Mornings. And so I would just love for you to take us on a journey of all the things, the monetized hobbies, the career that you said, it wasn't a place where I fit in. Like I was putting myself in this can. Yeah. I want to hear all of it.
Yeah. I mean, how much time do you have?
We're rolling.
So, let me go back to the day of my birth.
A nice fall day. I don't know when you're,
it was August.
Okay. Close enough.
It was hot. So I, actually went to school to study, music business.
I was a music major.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
We're discovering something new.
I quickly was like, I hate all of you. It wasn't, to be clear, it wasn't musicians. It was other music business majors. So I went to Indiana University, and it was it's kind of like a black sheep of a program that was in the environmental school, like environmental affairs, and public art school. I took a few classes and I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot spend the rest of my life working with you people. Like you're driving me insane.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what can I do to get out of that, but not have to stay here any longer? Because I'm like, I was over school the moment I started. Like I enjoy learning, but I was just like, I don't like being in a bubble.
Yeah.
So I was on track to graduate in 3 years, and I was like, okay, what can I do? So I kept my major and just shifted my focus to studio art. I have a design background. Like I started when I was in high school making show posters for my friends, like bands and stuff. I think that's how everybody that's amazing. A millennial starts into design things. So I was like, okay, I have this art background, these art chops, if you will, and I want to do that. So I shifted into graphic design, and like art history almost. So a lot of the classes I took were like museum management and opera management, like live performance management in that way, which is so funny to think about because I never got into those fields.
Yeah.
But I have a deep admiration, and it's something that I like. I love to go to the Frist and walk around and look at museums and look at how things are assembled to not just like look at the work. So, so anyway, I finished school and moved to Nashville actually to get married. My husband and I, we dated for 4 years, and never lived in the same city.
So was he, sorry, I'm like, so did he live in Indiana?
No. So he's from Mississippi. And we actually, we
trying to connect the dots.
He was my camp counselor.
Oh my gosh.
So, that's how we met, and we didn't really we just knew each other, and then we started dating later. And so we never lived in the same city until I moved to Nashville and we got married. So it was all at once. It's been great. We love each other very much. We have 2 beautiful dogs.
Oh, I love it.
So I moved to Nashville, for that reason. He was in music business at the time. He loved it, for what it's worth. And I was just kind of looking for anything that would pay me, honestly. And I was like, okay, I have these design skills. So I started working at another agency. It was a very niche agency, for the beauty industry, which was a whole world, that I was not prepared for, to be honest. Like, I mean, look at me. I don't wear makeup. Like the most I'm doing is dyeing my hair green. And so that was like eye-opening, and it just kind of gave me like a foot in the door as far as like social media marketing, all of that. About a year later, I moved over to the Williamson County Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Franklin. For those of you that know, Franklin is just south of Nashville, a really small town. And I was a marketing coordinator there, and I absolutely loved it. It wasn't super corporate. It was a nonprofit that was pseudo government funded. We had some stipulations on like what we could do. Like, you know, we had to be in the office. We had to wear professional attire. I don't know. I think it was just so different for me as like a young person in the workforce. I'm like, you do know I wear jeans when I'm not here though, right? Like, why does it matter? So that was just something that I always struggle with, not just the dress, but like the expectation of like, and we have to be in the office, and you have to be like 100% in your job, all of those things.
And that's hard as a 20 something too, because you're not only trying to figure out like, okay, the workforce is new to me. Are you newly married at this point too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
you're new to Nashville. You're a newlywed, and you're still trying to, I don't know, maybe you were ahead of when I was in my 20s, I'm like, who am I? What am I going to be? Like, what's happening?
I still feel like I'm doing that.
Sure.
And it's like, Yeah, when you're 20 something, your brain is a lot more malleable than when you're 30 something. But yeah, it was just a hard place. Like I deeply loved my job and loved everybody I worked with. And like, I always tell people it was the most fun job I will probably ever have because it was like, I was promoting tourism. Like who doesn't like to travel?
Yeah.
So I loved it. Everybody I worked with was great. I learned so much. It was just that struggle of like the bureaucracy of navigating like a pseudo government funded agency was really frustrating for me. And I saw like, I really liked the brand part of my job. So I moved into a creative role there and basically focused more on building the brand of Franklin. And what does that mean? Like what is Franklin to other people? And we have all these different things. What do they have in common? Who's coming here? All of those things were super fascinating to me. More than just like, hey, we need a flyer designed, which that was part of it too. But I really just wanted the more holistic approach to that. So I actually left there after about 5 years and went to another agency that focused specifically on strategy in the B2B space, which I had never done any work in. I really enjoyed it. It was hard. It was so much work. Like I was there for a year and a half and I felt like I was working all the time. And again, back to that idea of like kind of losing yourself a little bit. I think I definitely I'm the type of person that gets really committed to the work I'm doing. And I just lost myself in that. And it wasn't until I was on the other side of that though, that I realized like, oh, I am not myself right now. Like I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
What do I want to do? All of those questions that everybody dealt with when we got stuck in our houses in 2020 for indefinitely. So in May of 2020, I left my role there and was like, I'm just going to freelance and figure it out. I had a few things lined up. I had freelanced throughout my whole career, just doing random like design projects. And I was like, I'll reach out to my old contacts and just make it work. Fortunately, my husband was gainfully employed and could float us in that. Those stimmy checks didn't hurt either.
Stimmy checks.
So yeah, I was able to kind of figure out and try all the things that I wanted to try and figure out, okay, what does it look like to take a holistic approach to building brands specifically for small businesses and people who normally wouldn't have the resources to like hire a huge agency or, you know, put all the time into it that it takes. So what did that look like? I started exploring that and quickly realized I love the strategy piece, but I'm tired of designing. Like my brain was fried from trying to stretch into this creative zone that I just kind of like, I don't know, lost touch with in some way, or just felt burnout by maybe that's a better description. I freelanced as like a brand strategist / designer for probably 2 years. And then in 2022, I was like, how do I get rid of this design thing? Like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So
that's hard when it's like just you at the time.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, I can only take on so much work if I'm doing both things. I want to be able to take on more projects. And I want my work to feel a little bit more valuable too, and expand the work I'm doing without getting into design. So this is a long way of saying that's how Strange Salt was born. I was like, hey, I actually had an opportunity for a project. That was the opportunity that I was like, okay, this is it. I can bring in more people. I can figure this out in a way that's healthy for all of us. I'm not trying to build another agency. I'm not trying to be anybody's boss. I just want other people to be able to do the work that they want to do. And I want to be able to do the work that I want to do. So that's why I started Strange Salt. I brought in my friend Sarah to do all the design after Liz and I, actually, this was the first project we worked on together. We tag team. I did the brand strategy. She did the messaging strategy.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, it's interesting to run Strange Salt as a creative collective and just be a piece of it, but then also running my own business as Jamie, where I'm still doing brand strategy on my own outside of Strange Salt, because it might just be like, doesn't make sense for the budget for Strange Salt or like to bring other people in. They're maybe too early to even think about building a website or design.
How interesting. I didn't know that you were still doing that like as a separate thing. That's awesome.
It's a weird thing I deal with daily.
And we're working today.
Yes. And it's like, I have to consider myself like essentially a freelancer for Strange Salt. Like, while I am the owner, I'm not a full-time employee of Strange Salt. I'm still a freelancer, just like everybody else. I don't know. It's just a really great community.
I love it. I mean, when we founded Mazzo Media 10 years ago, Jason and I were both freelancers,
Yeah.
and we still operate in a way today. It's similar where we can take on freelance projects, but it's more of like a official umbrella, I guess. But, there are times where we come across projects and I'm like, I want to take that project on because I like you as a client, but I don't do websites. Like I do not want to do them. And so, we're fortunate here in Nashville, right? Like, especially being plugged into Creative Mornings and like, you know, whatever else it is, Ladies Wine and Design, or there's so many talented people here. And so one of our values is like, we're better together. And so we then can tap into somebody, you know, I worked on a project with Kelsey, Launch Your Daydream the other day, and oh my gosh, she knocked it out of the park. And amazing. I'm like, if I had tried to do that, you know, and I'm just acting as like a project manager, but if I had tried to do that, I would have probably gouged my eyeball out with a fork.
Yes, I can agree.
And it wouldn't have looked near as good. Yeah. So it saved me like an eye, and also, you know, helped her. Yeah. And it's like, of course, as business owners, we're always going to have to do something that we don't want to do. Like, that's just life. If you work in a corporate career, you have to do that. But it's like, how can we minimize that, but still be plugged in a way that feels meaningful for us? I have a lot of those clients that I'm like, oh, I really love what you're doing, and I so want to see you succeed. Like, let me just come in and project manage, and I'm going to hand it to Kelsey. And that's another big thing for Strange Salt is we're super transparent. Transparency is one of our values. I love it. About who's doing the work and who's not. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a role where my boss got all the credit for the thing I did, and I'm like, how did you design that? You want to open Illustrator and show me? Yeah, I'd love to see your native file. Oh my gosh. What has been the thing that surprised you the most since starting Strange Salt? Strange Salt.
I know, it is a tongue twister. This is something that surprised me, but also something I need to get better about is the amount of people who are willing to like help and support. I need to get better about asking for help because I'm just the type of person that like, I see something and I just want to get it done. And
it would be, I say that, and I'm working on like delegating or I'm with you.
Yeah. It would be quicker in the short term, but in the long run, it's going to save me so much time to delegate. But so asking for help and being specific about that help is something I need to work on. But it is so surprising to me how many people are willing to help regardless of like what it is. If I'm like, hey, does anybody have any advice on X, Y, and Z? People are like so willing to just share in the community of Strange Salt, but also just like colleagues and people I've met along the way in building that, like clients, all of that.
I've noticed that that's actually pretty common in Nashville.
I was going to say, is it just the Nashville
I've been wondering that myself too, because in my adult life, this is the only place that I've lived. Like I came here for college, liked it so much. I've stayed, been here over 25 years, but 25, nobody do the math there. So I say this a lot, that I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I think in some ways it's really good. Like I've, connected with you and Liz and some other people, and just being able to follow other podcasts I'm listening to, talk to other designers, maybe not ask for help because I'm with you. Like
because I'm me.
Because that's what I do. But thanks to Facebook memories.
Oh no, I'm so scared. I'm not on Facebook anymore.
No, it was something I posted. Okay, so
I was like, oh no, what emo photo from 2006 did you find?
Oh my gosh. I went back and I was like, but you have to approve everybody who tags you in a photo. I'm also thankful, we did not have, I joined Facebook after college. So
oh my gosh,
none of that stuff was on.
Oh my God, I was a freshman in high school and I was an idiot.
Were we all? I think we all were. I don't know. Yeah. The pictures from high school are like scanned in.
Oh, no. I love it.
Anyway, so I made this post on May 27th, 2022.
The day of our first meeting.
The day you spoke to the Nashville chapter of Creative Mornings. Okay. So I actually have the photo here so I can reference it. So the post is a photo of you next to a screen with question prompts under the header of, instead of next to an alternate conversation starters under the header of try this.
Yes, I remember.
My caption reads, girl after my own heart. Story time. Quarantine changed me. Health challenges changed me. I've learned there are so many more important things in life than the hustle and the slay all day. Ugh.
Yes.
I have intentionally pulled back. I'm using my time more wisely to serve my physical, mental, and spiritual health. And yet I still get the questions, y'all staying busy?
Yeah.
And so I respond, yes, but only to the extent of which I allow. Let's start getting to know each other, really know each other, and recognize that we as fellow humans are so much more than the jobs we have and or do. So of course this resonated with me.
That like warms my heart.
Oh, well,
I remember reading this when you shared it. I remember reading it, and it's just so nice to hear it again.
So it resonated with me partially because I think it's kind of fun to put people on the spot and make them feel uncomfortable when they ask you dumb questions. But I am curious, what led you to start asking the try this questions?
Yeah. First of all, I just feel like the question, what do you do, is such a loaded question because our culture is like, work. What do you do for work? That's the only thing that matters. So I just started to realize I was going to a ton of like chamber events and that sort of thing when I was working for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And that was the question, the opening question all the time. What do you do? And for me, working in that position, we had a lot of authority, I'll say, in like what tourists knew about. So as soon as people knew that I worked for Visit Franklin, it turned into what can I get from you? So yeah, the what do you do question just felt really loaded from the get-go. Also just like living in the experience of my husband had lost a job. And, and like in that time of like the, months between jobs, it was like, what do you do? And it was like, well, now I got to tell you, I got laid off. Like,
and I just met you.
Right. And it's just like, gosh, why are we so fixated on that question? So, and then around this time when I gave that talk, I had, we were just on the other side of like vaccines and feeling like the world was our oyster again. And I was like, man, I don't want to talk about work. This is like owning my own business is the most detached I've ever been from work, which is so weird, but it just gives me so much more freedom to like understand myself and find myself and what am I actually interested in? So I just started thinking about that question and how much I hated answering it. And I was like, I bet other people hate to answer it too.
100%.
And we are just so much more interesting than the work we do.
Preach, 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 preach.
Also, have you ever like has anybody ever asked you like, what do you do? And when you start to speak, you just see their eyes like glaze.
This is so fascinating to me. When I first started freelancing, I joined the junior chamber because I realized I spent like an entire year as a freelancer. My phone wasn't ringing. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, somebody's got to promote me. Yeah. Nobody else is going to do it. I'm the person for the job. So I put myself out there. And I got really good at networking because it's freaking awkward. It's awkward. Nobody likes it, but the more that you do it, the easier it gets. Work my way up. I'm president now. And so I find that, okay, this is now my job, not my job, but like it's my goal. When we're at a networking thing, I'm just going to start asking people questions because people have no problem talking about themselves.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So that was the way that I could get them talking. But then I realized later, after this had kind of become ingrained in my head, later on down the road, I didn't have any close friends.
Oh yeah.
Because nobody is asking me questions. I'm just like rapid firing, like, oh, are you from here originally? Blah, 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 blah. So that was another part of this where I was like, we need to shift our focus, I think. And I'm thinking about networking things now. I was at one last night and the question that I'm getting is, who are you with?
Oh, like that's a weird one. If I said strange salt to somebody, they would be like, are you on drugs? Like
I'm with acid.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what do I do? Well, I unfortunately wake up at like 6 a.m. because my dog wakes me up then. It's like, I do a lot of things and we have made do synonymous with work.
With what you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah. I'm glad to know I'm not alone.
Yes. I actually got I had coffee with a friend recently. And he asked me a question that I loved. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to frame that too. It was, what are you excited about? Like,
I think that falls into the try this category.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
What are you excited about?
Like,
Tell me.
I am going to Alaska soon.
Oh my gosh.
I know. My whole family's going. We're going on a boat together. We're going on a cruise, not like a boat. We're going on a boat.
Grab your oars.
Yeah, we're going to paddle into Alaska. No, my whole family's going. And
that's incredible.
I'm excited about going on vacation, honestly, but going to Alaska, I've never been.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
What are you excited about?
Oh, well, this for sure.
It's so soon. It's coming out soon.
Coming out soon. Yeah. So August 1st, I haven't actually released the date. I may do that today. So we're talking about intentionality and connection with these conversation starters. And even on Scope Creep, you all talk about a lot, building a values first brand.
Yeah.
What does purpose mean to you and how are you pursuing that?
Oh, I've been thinking about this question since you asked me to be on this show. I'm like, what is purpose? No, I think it's hard for me to answer it because it is different every day. Like, and I think acknowledging that is really important. Like if sometimes your purpose is to sit at home and pet your dogs and because you need that in your own brain space, then like, yeah, that's your purpose today. That's fine.
Little mini purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if other times your purpose is volunteering and helping somebody else, cool. I think, for me, purpose is all about what I need. And I know that sounds selfish and like people are going to be like, oh, okay. But
I hear that a lot.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. That's been really interesting. One of the girls I was talking to, Katie Radel, she asked me, she said, what you're coming up on the end? What's something you've learned? And I'm like, we have more in common than we don't.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to that idea of what I was saying about like asking for help versus giving help and like how willing I am to do one and not the other. And I think when you really hone in on purpose, it's like, what do I need? And sometimes that is giving people what they need, but majority of the time my purpose is giving myself what I need.
I think sometimes too, the more work that you do, I've found this with my own purpose journey, the more that you do know about yourself and the deeper that you dig to those places that are sometimes not fun, but there's good stuff down there. I think you become more emotionally literate and you understand other people better as well. It's like a byproduct. So
yes. Yeah. Well, and as my husband says, who I think he heard it from our friend Ben, give out of abundance, like not out of, I don't know what the opposite of that
scarcity?
is. Yeah. Not out of scarcity.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Give out of abundance, not out of scarcity. And so much of that abundance comes from knowing yourself and giving yourself what you need before you give anybody else what they need, or what you think they need. That's also something I do. Sorry, everyone that I'm related to.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking back to your career journey, just referencing the Creative Mornings talk again. We'll link that because it's so good. I mean, I was like, can we just have her back? That would be great.
If anybody wants me to come talk at their event, I am open to speaking.
She's so good. She's so good. Do you have like a booking form or something on your website?
I do. I actually just joined a speaking group. That's what I'll call it. Like a cohort called Badassery. And they have a ton of speakers that are just like doing amazing things. Like there are people who work in sports, people who are executive coaches, DJs who like tie in leadership and DJs. Anyway, there's all sorts of speakers that I'm in this cohort with. And so people can book me to lead a workshop or talk about creativity or talk about like creative collaboration is something I love to talk about. Hobbies. I'll talk your ear off about hobbies all day. So you can book me through there.
That's awesome. Yeah. And what about the Pollen thing?
Pollen is a freelancers network for any of you freelancers listening. And it is a community of freelancers who basically just ask questions, give advice really willingly and freely. I'm a mentor in there. So
that's cool.
People can ask me questions, book time with me, just to like learn more about, any sort of freelance processes, building a business, all of that. It's new. It just launched.
Oh, cool.
So it's been super, super fun.
And maybe you can work on that other side that you were talking about. You also can ask questions then.
Yeah, we'll see. No, I actually have been better at it there.
That's awesome.
And yeah, asking questions, especially when I see people post something that I'm like, oh, that sounds super interesting.
Yeah.
Like, tell me more about this. Even if it's just some people are like, I had a pet snake once. And I'm like, what? Tell me that.
I'm very curious.
Yes.
Tell me more. So you mentioned, and we've talked about before, like the hobbies,
Yes.
like all the different things that you were monetizing. I mean, are you doing anything just for fun now?
Yeah.
The question that I'm really getting to is like, what makes your heart come alive?
Oh, anything where I get to use like my mechanical brain and my hands makes my heart come alive. And that can be anything from like bread baking.
Yeah,
and
I was like, tell me.
Chemistry
Okay.
of that, or like cooking. Like those are things that I'm like, how do these things work together? Those are the things that get me really excited. And I love to invest my time in, like my quote unquote free time.
Yeah. What's
what
that?
is free time? Yeah. So that, but I will say presently.
Mhm.
So, well, let me go back 8 years ago. 8 years ago, my neighbor was selling a 1930s printing press.
What?
And he knew that in college I had worked on some Vandercook presses. And he was like, hey, I just need to clear out space. Like I have 3 of these. Well, do you want this? I'll sell it to you for cost. And I was like,
what was he doing with I mean, I guess he was actively using them.
Yeah. So he had interned at, I want to say Hamilton Wood Type in Wisconsin. And had just learned to like assemble presses and restore them. He asked me if I wanted to buy it. And I think if you had asked me 2 years ago, I reluctantly bought it. But now I'm like, no, I bought it. I bought it for a reason. And it moved into my garage, which my garage is like attached to my house.
Okay.
And it was an unfinished garage. Like it was made for a car, like most garages. But we couldn't get a car in it because it's just weird. Like you had to do like a 20-point turn to get in our garage. So anyway, the letterpress machine moved in there.
Mm-hmm.
It weighs presently like 3,000 pounds.
Whoa.
So it moved to my house 8 years ago. In 2020, we actually redid the garage. So that was about, 5 years after we got the press.
Okay.
Hadn't touched it. Hadn't touched the press. I was actually talking to my therapist about this. I'm like, listen, I have this printing machine in my garage. Am I insane? Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And she was like, embrace the process.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on the process. Don't focus on the end thing. Because I was so hung up on how am I going to monetize this? How am I going to print things and make money with this? Why? I have no idea. So then she was like, focus on the process. Focus on what it takes to get from point A to point B. And I was like, I love it. So I wrote down everything I needed to do on a paper and hung it on the printing press. That was probably in 2019. In 2020, I was like, wow, look at all this time I have. I'm going to work on this printing press. And guess what I did? Not that. So then
I'm waiting. I'm like, tell me.
I know this is truly a journey. And then in 2022, I was like, yes, okay, I can do this. So very tiny baby steps, like cleaning it up, moving the engine in the way that I needed it to, putting the belt on, all of those things happened in 2022. And then it just sat there for a few months again. And going back to the asking for help thing, I have a friend who used to own Sawtooth Print Shop here in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And I ran into her and she was like, how's your printing press? And I was like, oh, wow. Thanks for asking me. It's terrible. No. And she was like, oh, are you scared of it? And I was like, yes, that's it. That's it. I'm scared of it. It weighs 3,000 pounds. It's terrifying.
It's a behemoth.
Yes. And she said, well, let me know. And I'll come help you and I'll show you. And so she came over and she basically showed me how I could die. And now I know how not to die.
Yeah.
And she told me you're about 1% away from like being able to print on this. And that just like lit the fire.
Oh, wow. For her saying you're so close.
Yes.
You're so close.
Yes.
Oh,
so
wow.
I reached out to the guy who sold me the press.
Uh-huh.
We ran into him recently and hadn't seen him forever. And I was like, hey, do you have these parts that like I need to buy, but are you using them? Can I borrow them? And he's like, oh yeah, just hang on to them for me. So he gave me a bunch of stuff. I did some eBay deep dives. I've emailed a ton of people. This has all been in like the last 3 weeks. And I finally have everything I need on its way. I bought rollers. I bought all the stuff. It's all in the mail. The check is in the mail. No, it's all in the mail on the way to me. Mm-hmm. And we'll be printing soon. So that's the thing that I'm just doing for fun. I've let go of that idea of like, oh, I need to monetize this. Mm-hmm. Like and thinking about, investing, like, yes, it's cost money to buy rollers and buy these little things, not a ton of money, but some money.
Yeah.
And it's like, why am I not investing in the things that bring me joy? Why am I only investing in like work things?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, the opportunity here, I think, is for me to hang out with my artist friends who want to print their stuff. And
That's cool.
I have a friend, Steven, who is like, oh, I can carve blocks and print on that. And I was like, yeah, come over. Like, what a fun way to hang out. And his wife, Janie, she makes like really cool artwork, egg prints, all sorts of stuff. And she's
egg
like,
prints?
Yeah, she like draws eggs all the time. She's so good.
Wow. People are so creative. I'm never tired of hearing this. I'm like, tell me about the weird thing that you do.
Yes,
like, I want to hear that.
So, and she was like, can it print tiny? I was like, well, it prints big, but we can cut it tiny.
Oh,
so
wow.
Anyway, I'm just so excited to print things with friends and get to do the mechanical part of that.
Yeah.
While they like make their artwork. And yeah, I'm thrilled. So
yeah, that's a great, yes, please. That's a great answer. Okay. So, we have a segment here on Doing Hard Things called, it is very creatively named Pick a Card, Any Card, because there are cards to pick from. So we have the gold star, the green shamrock, red check, orange arrows, purple pyramid, blue diamonds, and pink heart.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to read too much into what these mean. I feel like I should go with green because it's my entire personality.
I love it. Let's do it. Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. What is the most effective way you found to handle stress?
No.
Next.
Pass.
Avoidance.
Phone a friend. My stress comes in waves. I'm a deeply anxious person, hence why I go to therapy.
Yeah, we love therapy around here.
Yes, we do. So my stress comes in waves where I'll be like, oh, things are chill. And then one thing will like send me into a spiral. So when I start to feel like I'm in the spiral, the number one thing I do is stop working, which sounds like it would be bad, but it's like, no, I just need to remove myself from the situation for a while, process, and either whether that's like with somebody else or in my head, and then come back to it. And getting to a place where I feel like I can stop and come back to it has been really hard for me because I am the type of person who also like, I just got to work through this problem. It'll be there. I'll get there eventually. And it's like, no, the best work's going to happen when I step away and come back with fresh eyes. So that's one way. The other thing I try to do, especially during really stressful times, is I cook.
Oh, wow. Tell me more.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, when I'm like stressed about something or feeling down about something that happened or whatever, coming home and cooking a meal and just like, I have to be in this thing right now. Like I will literally burn my house down if I'm not. So I have to stand here. I have to do this thing. It's like a very methodical process. It's, I know what to expect if I'm following a recipe or cooking something. I know how to cook. So it's just very, methodical. And I love that. So that's one I think about like the steps I take when I'm having a stressful week, and it's like step away, cook dinner and eat something and moving. I was a spin instructor. I spin all the time. I've been really into yoga lately. I have a bike, like an actual bike. So again, I have to focus on pedaling. Otherwise I'm going to fall in the river.
What is the best piece of advice you've been given? But I'm specifically thinking about, the college students that I work with in some of these conversations, talking about who they're becoming versus what they're achieving. And so when I'm asking these questions, I also have them in the back of my mind, like 2 have graduated, 1 is going into her senior year. And so I'm thinking about like, as they're starting out in the workforce, what would they need to hear? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah. Well, one of my old clients actually gave me this advice, and I don't know if she knew it was advice at the time. But I had basically made a post on Instagram that was like introducing myself and my work and, you know, what I do and what I don't do, all of that, all of those fun things. And she said, I love that you shared this because some people just don't get it and will never get it. And I was like, oh, what do you mean by that? And she was like, well, when I started my business, she had a tech company formerly. She was like, I just realized at that phase in my life, some people were not for me. Like some of my friends just did not get what I was doing and get like my new kind of life that I had to live in order to do this thing. And she's like, and it doesn't mean that we're not friends. It just meant that we weren't friends right now, or like we weren't hanging out all the time, or we weren't super involved with each other's lives. But so like some people just don't get it. It's like, oh yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, if those people don't get it, usually they're not my people.
Right.
And I think about my friendships that way a lot. I have my best friend, Emily. It is so funny. We will go weeks, months without talking, but we just get it. We get that in each other. Like she's mom, she's busy, and I'm working, I'm busy. And it's like, we just don't have time. I would love if we had more time, but it's like, it's not like a whole thing when we pick up conversations again. It's just like, we get it.
Yeah.
We get it. So
those friendships feel so good too. Cause it's like you pick up where you left off and there are no apologies. You just understand.
Yes.
Like, okay, this is just life. It's just a season too, you know?
If I'm developing a new friendship with somebody, I'm like, listen, this is how I handle friendships and I'm going to disappear for a long time and you probably won't see me. Just text me. I will hang out. I will put you on my calendar. But like, if you need somebody that's there all the time, it's not me.
Yeah, that's fair. So, I think it gets harder as we get older too, right? Like it's just one of those things. But I love what you said. Like if there is some sort of issue with that, like they're not my people. We feel that way about clients too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. If a client wants me to respond immediately to every email, sorry, no, goodbye. Fire me. No, I don't want it.
Oh, I'm going to write it down. Okay. What is one question you wish I had asked you and how would you answer it?
I wish you would have asked me what I'm curious about. That was one of my questions on my list.
Well, what are you curious about?
Now I have to know the answer. No, I feel like right now, I've been delving into, like ChatGPT AI stuff and just like,
it's wild.
It is. And I'm curious about it in a way that's like, how can this impact my business in a positive way? I think people are really stuck on like, oh my God, the robot is stealing my clients. And I'm like, no, like somebody still has to train the robot. So I've been really interested in that and like how I can use it to make my life easier. Especially running, my business, my own business, all of the things like, okay, when can I rely on this? And also recognizing though within that, like, am I becoming too reliant on this robot and have I forgotten how to do my job?
It's true.
So those are like the AI stuff is super interesting to me right now. And I, a million other people might answer that way too, but
no, actually nobody has. Okay. So the last question to bring it all back to purpose. What is your why?
My why is that the world is really, really boring and it shouldn't be.
I kind of love that.
Yeah. Well, especially you probably see this as a designer too. Why is everything beige?
Oh,
why are we beige serif font girlies right now? I am
so for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about. I mean, I feel like you could pull up, what social media account? I feel like it's a lot of marketers.
Yes. Anybody that's promoting, like small business graphic design, brand strategy, branding.
There's a lot.
It's so bland. And it's just like, I used to say, life is hard, then you die. And now it feels like life is boring, then you die. And so I guess last year I really leaned into that and I was like, why does everything feel so boring? And why like building a business is hard. It should not be unexciting though. Like it should still feel fun and it should still like, you want to get up in the morning and do it. So my why is that the world is boring and it shouldn't be. And that you can bring your personality and all the weird things to your business and the things you create. And that's going to pull the right people to you. I always say I make brands less boring.
Yeah. We said that in your, in the intro.
Yes.
I love it too. It's very succinct.
Yes.
And
it's just like, if you don't want a boring brand, you come to me. If you want a boring brand, you don't come to me. That's fine. If you're not willing to push your limits, don't come to me.
Yeah. I do think that authenticity piece is so good though.
Yeah.
I do. Why are we trying to fit in? We were born to stand out.
Yeah. It's like really going back to like 1995 elementary school, like be yourself. Everyone else is taken, but it's true.
It is true. Yeah. You know what? Liz said that.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. I said,
we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah. When I asked her about like the advice that she was the best advice she'd been given. And she said, or the advice for, people starting out in the industry. And that's what she said. She was like, sounds cheesy, but it's true. There's only one of you.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. And like say the unpopular opinions, all of those things are going to bring the people to you that you want and repel the people you don't.
I love it. Good note to end on. Jamie, what a treat.
Amanda, this was so fun. I loved it. I loved just having this conversation.
Yeah.
And any
same.
Conversation.
Same. Well, yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Fire up a mic. I'm there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Everybody tune into Scope Creep. We got season 2 coming up.
Yes.
Maybe soon.
Yes.
Cause you like just finished and I'm like, when's the next one?
Season 2 is coming. We will be releasing probably by the time this has come out. That might have happened too, but we'll have a bunch of mini episodes coming in between season 1 and season 2, answering listener questions and sharing client horror stories, which are so fun.
So fun.
Yeah, you can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Scope Creep Show and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
I love it. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Glad you could join me.
Yes, thanks for having me.
If you'd like to hear more, you can follow Jamie at JMERCOX or Strange Salt at Strange Salt. If you're looking for more podcasts, I highly recommend Scope Creep. You can follow both Jamie and Liz at Scope Creep Show. We're also on Instagram at Doing Heart Things and at Mazzo Media. Thanks for joining us today. Did this conversation strike a chord with your heart? We'd love for you to share your story with us at mazzomedia.com/heart. Please also share, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate your help getting us into your friends' ears. We'll see you back here with the next episode. Until then, keep doing hard things.
Doing Hard Things is brought to you by Mazzo Media, an award-winning creative studio in Nashville, Tennessee. We work with people, brands, and organizations to help tell their stories through videography, photography, graphic design, and social content. We believe that everyone has a story worth telling, and it's in those stories that we build bridges to each other. Ready to share yours? Get started at mazzomedia.com.